Hey everyone, welcome back to Poplar Preparedness. We got some big news stories out there, particularly what's going on over in Europe. We're going to be looking at some of the farming issues. We're going to see some huge drought issues and transportation issues and power issues due to the drought that are impacting Europe very severely. Of course, that is going to impact everyone around the world, whether you're in Australia, the United States, anywhere else, as they start to import a lot of food because they can't raise their own. A lot of logistical challenges there. And let's jump right into it. First off, let's start off with a little island off the coast of the UK, Jersey. Not New Jersey for you folks out there, but the island of Jersey. The largest vegetable producer on the island of Jersey is now shutting down. They produced 80% of Jersey's fresh vegetables, but they will now have to import all of those vegetables because it is now uneconomical or economically viable to farm. So they are going to shut down 135 years of growing vegetables on the Isle of Jersey. They are now shut down. Of course, the grain mill over in Oregon has burned down. Of course, that's not Europe, but it's in my stack, so I mention it anyway. Let's jump into here. Netherlands. They are now announcing plans to shut down 11,200 farms, which is 20% of their farms. They're going to first try to get farmers to accept payouts, but if that doesn't work, they will legislate farms out of existence there. That is big news. If you do eminent domain, right? They give you money, but it's not the money that you want. And if you don't want to sell, they can still force you to sell at a price that you don't want to sell at or something that you don't want to sell. But the big news that we're going to be finding here is a little further up the Rhine River. Of course, the Rhine flows out through the Netherlands, but the Rhine has fallen at Cobb, has fallen below the critical 40 centimeters. And below 40 centimeters, that does mean that they have to stop sending barges past Cobb, which is a logistical nightmare, folks. This is huge news. This is going to mean that they're going to have to unload at Cobb, and they have to start loading all that transportation onto rails and take it the rest of the way. There are power plants up those rivers, coal-fired power plants that require those barges to keep coming in order to produce power. In addition to that, we also will see that over in France, they have shut down a large proportion of their nuclear fleet because they do not have enough water. And the water that they have is too hot when it gets sucked into the pipes. When they use that water to cool down the reactors, when they dump it out, it's going to be too hot to dump back in the waterways because it will damage eco stuff. Now, I understand if it's like so hot that fish will die and stuff like that. But we're not talking about that. In most cases, we're talking about water coming back out. It's going to damage algae and stuff like that. It's going to unbalance the ecosystem. But when you're in crisis mode, you need to be producing power. We're now seeing that French power prices are at a record level of 600 euros per megawatt hour. Normally, it's hanging around 50 euros per megawatt hour, but right now it's 600 euros. That's 12 times the rate. How much do you think your electric bill will go up if the power company has to pay 12 times the amount for the electricity that it's giving you? Is that a good question to ask? Because it's a question that people in Europe should be asking, because that's what's going to be hitting them in their bank pockets. Their wallets are going to be suffering because, and let's just ask that question, if they use those rates in order to crank up their coal production fire plants. They're burning up more natural gas. That just means more natural gas and less coal for the winter time is going to be available. They're going to need that coal, that gas in the wintertime, but they're not going to have it because they used it up now because their nuclear plants were offline. Will those nuclear plants be fixed? 50% of them are still offline due to maintenance issues. And when we say maintenance issues, the reason why we're saying that is because Macron and others have campaigned on the issue of shutting down half of the nuclear reactors in France. And since they get 80% of their power from those plants, that's kind of a big deal. Is France putting in a whole bunch of solar arrays? No, they're not. They're just shutting down the nuclear plants? Yeah, that's basically what they're doing. Because they're going to import the electricity from elsewhere. Of course, no one else is putting in those power plants. They're just hoping for the best. It's like there's this systematic destruction of the supply chains, the systematic destruction of the energy systems in countries around the world that are run by people that come out of WEFers. They come out of their conferences about how they want to, Davos and all this kind of stuff. They want to save the planet. They want to get everyone to eat bugs and use less power. So let's get these smart meters in everyone's homes. Let's get these smart thermostat controllers in everyone's homes so that we can turn down their power usage whenever we feel like. And then we can start shutting down all the power plants that we don't want. And they're just going to have to take it. So the drought across Europe that is hitting France, that is hitting Germany, that is hitting Amsterdam and Netherlands and southern England is impacting food production severely. The olive crop in Spain and Italy looks like it's going to be the worst in a very long time. It's going to hurt wheat production. It's going to hurt so many things. The lack of rain is particularly troublesome. The rivers are down and the rivers are too hot to be used for cooling. 600 euros per megawatt hour. That is huge, folks. That's some of the highest in the Western world. Record heat waves, vegetation stress alerts happening in the UK as well as Spain, France, Germany, Italy, and across the Balkans. That's not going to be good for, they have waterways being threatened, falling water in France, Spain, Italy, Germany, and Netherlands. The Rhine River is the worst. 60% of Europe, the EU, is now covered in drought conditions. Increased fire danger. They're having more and more wildfires. Massive wildfire hit 14,000 hectares in the last few weeks in southwest France, with almost 10,000 people displaced. There are 100 towns and villages in France that have no city water anymore. It is being trucked in. That is the only way they can get water into these towns and villages. Dozens of municipalities have run out of water, and so they're now using trucks to these 100 towns and villages. The Rhine River, of course, is critical for other reasons. Shipping of goods to factories and parts and manufacturing things back and forth. That is a big deal as well. It's going to impact chemical plants upriver. Oil. The River Rhine is used to transport things into Switzerland. It is one of their biggest ports, so they can get materials in and out of Switzerland relatively cheaply. But Cobb is now closed to barges. Big items are also an issue too. If you're looking at maintenance, things that are too big be hauled by road, they will be hauled by barge. that is now once again not possible. Huge news coming out of Europe, folks. There's a lot of crises happening around the world, and unfortunately there's too much to report on, but these are some of the effects we're seeing, that systematically food production is under attack, whether it is by the weather or whether it is by the WEFers or by governments at large who seem to be bent on subjugating all of mankind into eating lab-grown meat and lab-grown cockroaches. I, for one, will not submit, and I am making sure that I have enough food for me and people that I care about, so please be doing the same. If you like this video, you might want to check out this video right here. Otherwise, I will see you later. Steve Poplar, out.